Hey guys, BJ's Very Basic Bible, doing the Very Basic Bible quick read. We're going to do it over the nation of Israel. And what I mean by that, Israel was one nation until Solomon screwed things up. Then God broke it into two nations. The northern nation was called Israel, the southern nation was called Judah. When God broke the kingdom in half because of sin, the southern nation was called Judah and the northern nation was called Israel. We're going to read from the split until Israel was sent into exile. Okay, we'll get started at 1 Kings chapter 15. Here we go. Where is my timer? Okay, guys. Display and brightness. Now, got to set my timer for 10 minutes. In the 18th year of Israel's king Jeroboam, son of Nebat, Abijam became king over Judah, and he reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Maacah, daughter of Abishalom. Abijam walked in all the sins his father before him had committed. And he was not wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord his God as his ancestor had been, David had been. But for the sake of David, the Lord his God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem by raising up his son after him and by preserving Jerusalem. For the sake of David, okay, all these kings are remaining kings for the sake of David. For David did what was right in the Lord's sight, and he did not turn aside from anything he commanded him all the days of his life, except in the matter of Uriah the Hittite. Look at this. Uriah the Hittite. But the CSB says Hethite. I don't know. There had been war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all the days of Rehoboam's life. We've been told before. The rest of the events of Abijam's reign, along with all his accomplishments, are written in the historical record of Judah's kings. There also was war between Abijam and Jeroboam. Like father, Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Like son, Abijam and Jeroboam. Abijam rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David. His son Asa became king in his place. In the 20th year of Israel's king Jeroboam, Asa became king of Judah, and he reigned 41 years in Jerusalem. His grandmother's name was Maacah, daughter of Abishalom. Asa did what was right in the Lord's sight, as his ancestor David had done. He banished the male cult prostitutes from the land, finally, and removed all of the idols that his ancestors had made. He also removed his grandmother Maacah from being queen mother because she had made an obscene image of Asherah. Asa chopped down her obscene image and buried it in the Kidron Valley. Good. The high places were not taken away, but Asa was wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord his entire life. Okay, good. He brought his father's consecrated gifts and his own consecrated gifts into the Lord's temple, silver, gold, and utensils. Pretty cool. Giving a gift to the Lord. There was war between Asa and King Baasha of Israel throughout their reigns. Wait, what happened to King Jeroboam of Israel? So by this time, Jeroboam must have passed away, and Baasha is now king. Okay, in Israel. Okay. Oh, hey, here we go. Israel's King Baasha went to war against Judah. He built Ramah in order to keep anyone from leaving or coming to King Asa of Judah. So Asa withdrew all the silver and gold that remained in the treasuries of the Lord's temple and the treasuries of the royal palace and gave it to his servants. Then King Asa sent them to Ben-Hadad, son of Tabrimon, son of Hazion, king of Aram, who lived in Damascus, saying, no, wait. Okay, up here. Asa was wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord his entire life. But instead of trusting in the Lord, he withdrew the silver and gold that remained in the Lord's temple. Some of the silver and gold he and his father had put in there. And he went and asked a foreign king for help. and an enemy nation. Maybe God didn't see that as bad, but generally that's frowned upon in the Bible. So someone can be called, we see now, someone can be said to have followed the Lord with everything, but then make mistakes. Hyperbole is common in the Bible, but also things we think that are mistakes might not be. I'm not sure which one this is. Let's keep going. Okay. King Asa sent the servants with the treasure to Ben-Hadad, son of Tabermon, son of Hezion, king of Aram, who lived in Damascus, saying, there is a treaty between me and you, between my father and your father. Was there? Maybe, I don't know. It might just be pleasantries. Yeah. Look, I have sent you a gift of silver and gold. Go and break your treaty with King Baasha of Israel, so that he will withdraw from me. Ah, I see. Ben-Hadad listened to King Asa and sent the commanders of his armies against the cities of Israel. He attacked Ijon, Dan, Abel Beth Makkah, all of Chinnereth, and the whole land of Naphtali. When Baasha heard about it, he quit building Ramah and stayed in Tirzah. Okay, above, Baasha was building Ramah, but now that Ben-Hadad had forsaken his treaty with Israel and gone with Judah instead, Baasha's like, I'm leaving. You can see what kind of men these are. They just break their treaties for the highest pay. I wonder, does that happen today? Then King Asa, king of Judah, remember, gave a command to everyone without exception in Judah, and they carried away the stones of Ramah and the timbers Baasha had built with it. Then King Asa built Geba of Benjamin and Mizpah with them. Swipe their cities. Timber, build your own city. The rest of all the events of Asa's reign, along with all his might, all his accomplishments, and the cities he built, are written in the historic record of Judah's kings. But in his old age, he developed a disease in his feet. Then Asa rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of his ancestor David. His son Jehoshaphat became king in his place. Oh, look, we read about King Baasha, but Nadab, son of Jeroboam, became king over Israel in the second year of Judah's king Asa. He reigned over Israel 2 years. Nadab did what was evil in the Lord's sight and walked in the ways of his father and the sin the father had caused Israel to commit, the golden calves. Oh, then Baasha, son of Ahijah of the house of Issachar, conspired against Nadab, and Baasha struck him down at Gibbethon of the Philistines while Nadab and all Israel were besieging Gibbethon. Oh man, intrigue. God did say that he was going to cut off Jeroboam. Remember that? Yeah, because Jeroboam created the calf. He walked in the sin, the father, the calf, two calves. In the third year of Judah's king Asa, Baasha killed Nadab and reigned in his place. When Baasha became king, he struck down the entire house of Jeroboam. He did not leave Jeroboam any survivors, but destroyed his family according to the word of the Lord he had spoken through his servant Ahijah the Shilonite. So remember, Ahijah of the house of Issachar, I believe, is not the same Ahijah the Shilonite, the prophet from earlier in the book of Kings. This was because Jeroboam had angered the Lord God of Israel by the sins he had committed and had caused Israel to commit. The rest of the events of Nadab's reign, along with all his accomplishments, are written in the historical record of Israel's kings. There was war between Asa and King Baasha of Israel throughout their reigns. In the third year of Judah's king Asa, Baasha, son of Ahijah, became king over all Israel, and he reigned in Tirzah 24 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight and walked in the ways of Jeroboam in the sin he had caused Israel to commit. Man, when are they going to learn? Now the word of the Lord came to Jehu, son of Hanani, against Baasha. Because I raised you up from the dust and made you ruler over my people Israel. But You have walked in the ways of Jeroboam and have caused my people Israel to sin, angering me, God, with their sin. Take note, I, God, will eradicate Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Anyone who belongs to Baasha and dies in the city, the dogs will eat. And anyone who is his and dies in the field, the birds will eat. That's the same prophecy that Ahijah gave earlier. Man, about Jeroboam's enemies, man. The rest of the events of Baasha's reign, along with all his accomplishments and might, are written in the historical record of Israel's kings. Baasha rested with his ancestors and was buried in Tirzah. His son Elah became king in his place. But through the prophet Jehu, son of Hanani, the word of the Lord also had come against Baasha and against his house, because all his evil he had done in the Lord's sight. His actions angered the Lord, and Baasha's house became like the house of Jeroboam, because he struck it down. I'm guessing because the Lord struck down Baasha's house, and that's how Baasha's house became like the house of Jeroboam. Okay, guys, we'll see you in the next very basic Bible quick read. Don't forget, you're like, BJ, you said something wrong. BJ, you referenced something from earlier. That was too quick. BJ, you glossed over something too fast. Like, BJ, could you please explain? Okay, if you're confused, scroll down from the video, look in the show notes, and you will see several internet links that you can copy and paste into your search bar. They will take you to detailed exegetical teaching of all these verses. Man, isn't that awesome? I give you the detailed line by line, verse by verse, detailed teachings, along with my quick read. Okay, guys, see you in the next very basic Bible.